My heart stopped the moment I opened my banking app. $12,000. Gone. Just hours ago, I was laughing at my parents' 30th anniversary party, surrounded by family clinking glasses under the glittering chandeliers of the Palmer House in downtown Chicago. Now standing in our hotel room, the world felt like it was crumbling. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, the numbers mocking me. How could this happen? Who could do this to me? I'm Emily Harper, a 32-year-old financial analyst with a good job, a steady life, and a family I thought I could trust. My boyfriend, James Carter, a lawyer with a sharp mind and a warm heart, was packing our bags for the drive back to our apartment in Lakeview. The anniversary party for my parents, Susan and Robert Harper, had been picture perfect. My younger brother Liam was there cracking jokes. My older sister Olivia Bennett and her husband Ethan danced like they didn't have a care in the world. But something felt off. Olivia's quick glances, Ethan's forced smiles, my mother's overly sweet hugs, they lingered in my mind like shadows. James. I called, my voice shaking like a leaf in a storm. Something's wrong. Really wrong. He dropped his suitcase and rushed over, his dark eyes narrowing as he saw my phone. What is it, Emily? You look like you've seen a ghost. My account, I whispered, pointing at the screen. It's nearly empty. I had $15,000 yesterday. Now there's only $3,000 left. My chest tightened like a vice, squeezing my ribs. James took the phone, his fingers moving fast as he scrolled through the transaction history. His jaw clenched, and I knew it was bad. $5,000 to Olivia Bennett. He read, his voice low. $4,000 to Ethan Bennett. $3,000 to Susan Harper, all last night while we were at the party. He looked up, his gaze piercing. Emily, this isn't a glitch. Someone accessed your account. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the bed. My family, my family. The people I'd spent my life loving, supporting, celebrating with, they did this. My mind raced, replaying the night. I'd left my phone on the table during the party, thinking it was safe among relatives. I'd danced with James, toasted to my parents' love. Laughed with Liam, had someone grabbed my phone while I was distracted. The thought made my stomach churn like I'd swallowed poison. We need to call the bank now, James said, his tone firm but gentle. He placed a hand on my shoulder, grounding me. This is serious, Emily. This is fraud. The word hit like a slap. Fraud. It sounded so cold, so criminal. Could I really think of my family that way? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed in James's hand. It was my mother, Susan. The timing felt too perfect. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the answer button. Pick it up, James urged, but stay calm. Let's hear what she says. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, and pressed the button. Mom. My voice cracked, betraying my fear. Emily, sweetheart, Susan's voice was bright, like she was calling to chat about the weather. I just wanted to thank you for last night. The party was perfect. Wasn't it? Your father and I are so blessed to have you kids. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles whitening. Mom, I need to ask you something. I tried to sound steady, but my heart was pounding like a drum. There's money missing from my account. $12,000 transferred last night. Do you know anything about that? A pause, a long, heavy pause that made my skin crawl. Then a light laugh like I'd told a silly joke. Oh, honey, it's no big deal. Olivia mentioned you had more in your account than we thought, so we just borrowed a little. You know, for the party, for the kids. You're doing so well. Emily, we figured you wouldn't mind. My blood ran cold. Borrowed. The word echoed in my head, twisting like a knife. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "That's my money. You can't just take it. How did you even get into my account?" Another laugh, sharper this time. "Don't be so dramatic, Emily. Olivia saw your phone lying around, and your password's always been that same old thing. Your birthday, right? We're family, sweetheart. Family helps each other. You're single with that fancy job. Why make a fuss over a few bucks? A few bucks. $1,000, my vision blurred, tears burning my eyes. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my throat felt like it was closing. James took the phone, putting it on speaker. "Mrs. Harper," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. "This is James Carter, Emily's boyfriend. What you've done is illegal. Accessing her account without permission is a crime." Susan's tone shifted cold as the Chicago wind. "Oh, the lawyer. Stay out of this, James. This is a family matter." And with that she hung up, leaving a silence that felt louder than any shout. I stared at the floor, my mind a whirlwind. Family. The word tasted bitter now, like ash. All those years I'd helped them, paying for Olivia's kids' school fees, buying my parents a new TV, sending Liam money for college. Had it all been a lie? Was I just a bank to them, a wallet to raid whenever they wanted? James knelt beside me, his hand warm against my cold fingers. "Emily, look at me." His eyes were steady, anchoring me. "We're going to fix this, but we need to act fast. Call the bank, freeze your account, and then we need to go to your parents' house. You deserve the truth, face to face." I nodded, though my heart felt like it was breaking. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's do it." As we grabbed our coats and headed for the door, the Chicago skyline loomed outside, its lights blurred by rain. The city felt alive, pulsing, but inside me a storm was brewing. My family had betrayed me, and I was about to confront them. What would I find when I did? Would I lose them forever? Or had I already? The drive to Oak Park was quiet, the hum of the car drowned out by my racing thoughts. James reached for my hand, his touch a lifeline. "Whatever happens," he said, "you're not alone. I'm with you." His words were a flicker of warmth in the cold, but as we pulled into my parents' driveway, the weight of what lay ahead pressed down on me. The truth was waiting, and it was going to hurt. The rain was relentless, hammering the windshield as James and I drove to my parents' house in Oak Park. My stomach twisted like a knotted rope, each mile tightening the grip. $12,000 stolen from my account by my own family, my sister Olivia, her husband Ethan, my mother Susan. Their names burned in my mind, each one a fresh wound. How could they do this? How could they think it was okay? The Chicago skyline faded behind us, swallowed by the storm, but the real tempest was raging inside me. James's hand rested on mine, steady and warm. "Emily," he said, his voice cutting through the static of my thoughts. "You don't have to do this alone, but you do need answers. Stay strong, okay?" I nodded, though my heart felt like it was splintering. Strong, I wasn't sure I knew what that meant anymore. All my life, I'd been the good daughter, the one who paid for family dinners, covered Olivia's kids' expenses, helped my parents without question. Now I felt like a fool, trapped in a web I hadn't even seen. We pulled up to the familiar red brick house, its porch light glowing like a false promise. Laughter spilled from inside Olivia's sharp giggle, Ethan's low chuckle, my mother's soft hum. The sound made my skin crawl. They were laughing while my world was falling apart. I clenched my fists, the anger rising like a tide. "Let's go," I said, my voice sharper than I expected. The door swung open before I could knock. My father Robert stood there, his gray hair disheveled, a newspaper tucked under his arm. "Emily, thought you were headed back to Lakeview." His smile faltered as he saw my face. "What's wrong, kiddo?" I pushed past him into the living room, where Olivia, Ethan, and Susan sat around the coffee table, wine glasses in hand. The laughter dyed their faces, freezing like a paused movie. "Why," I demanded, my voice trembling but loud. "Why did you access my account? Why did you steal $12,000 from me?" Olivia leaned back, crossing her arms with a smirk. "Geez, Emily, chill out. Your password was a joke. Your birthday. I grabbed your phone while you were dancing last night. No big deal." Her casual tone hit like a slap, each word dripping with arrogance. "No big deal," I shouted, my hands shaking. "That's my money, Olivia. You don't get to just take it." Ethan leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Come on, Emily, we needed it. The party, the kids' school fees. Our mortgage life's tough, you know. You're single, got that fancy job. What do you even need all that cash for?" I felt like I'd been punched. My throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. "Need it for it's mine. I worked for it, saved it, planned for it. You don't get to decide what I need." Susan stood, her hands smoothing her dress, her voice syrupy. "Sweet. Emily, honey, we're family. You've always helped us. This is just sharing, that's all." James stepped forward, his presence like a shield. "Mrs. Harper, this isn't sharing, it's theft. Unauthorized access to Emily's account is a crime, and you know it." Susan's smile vanished. Her eyes cold as ice. "Don't you dare lecture me, James. This is between us, Harpers." I couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was closing in, their words weaving a net around me tighter with every excuse. "How could you?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "I trusted you, all of you." Olivia rolled her eyes. "God, Emily, don't make a scene. You'll make that money back in a month. We needed it more." Something snapped inside me. I turned to James, my voice low. "Can you check my account again? I need to know everything." He nodded, pulling out his laptop. As he dug deeper, his face darkened. "Emily," he said, his tone grave, "this is worse than we thought. Olivia used your identity to open a $20,000 loan last month. Your name, your social security number. It's all over the paperwork." The room spun. A loan. My identity. I stumbled back, grabbing the arm of a chair. "Olivia!" I gasped. "You stole my identity. How could you do this to me?" She shrugged, unfazed. "We were behind on bills. You weren't using your credit. So why not? You're fine, Emily. Stop overreacting." Overreacting, my life was unraveling, and she called it overreacting. Memories flooded back times. Olivia asked for my ID, just for a form, moments I'd brushed off as sisterly trust. It was all a lie, a plan to bleed me dry. "This isn't just theft," I said, my voice steady, now fueled by rage. "This is betrayal." Susan stepped closer, her hand reaching for mine. I pulled away. "Emily," she cooed, "your father's heart can't take this stress. You're hurting him, reporting this to the bank. Think of the family." Her words were a knife twisting guilt into my anger. I loved them, didn't I? But love wasn't supposed to feel like this, like a trap snapping shut. James took my arm gently. "We're leaving," he said, his voice firm. "Emily, you don't owe them anything." As we walked out, Olivia's voice followed, sharp and mocking. "You're so selfish, Emily. Good luck living with that guilt." Back in the car, I broke down, tears streaming down my face. They used me, James, my own family. He held my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles. "They did. But you're not alone. We'll fight this together." The next day, I visited my brother Liam at his apartment in Wicker Park. The cozy space, cluttered with books and coffee mugs, felt like a refuge. Liam's face fell when I told him everything. "Emily, I knew Olivia and Ethan were scheming," he admitted, his voice heavy. "They talked about borrowing from you at the party. I should have stopped them, but I was scared it'd tear us apart." My heart ached, but I saw the pain in his eyes. "Liam," I said, touching his arm, "you're not them. Will you help me now?" He nodded, his jaw tight. "I'm on your side, sis. I swear." James arranged a meeting with Rachel Nguyen, a lawyer friend who specialized in financial crimes. Her office in the Loop was stark, all glass and steel, but her voice was warm. "Emily," she said, flipping through my bank statements, "this is identity theft and financial abuse. You've got a strong case, but you need evidence, texts, emails, anything showing their intent." I spent hours combing through my records. The numbers told a story I'd ignored for years. $25,000 loaned to my family, coerced through guilt trips and sweet talk. "You're so lucky, Emily," they'd say. "Help your struggling family." It wasn't help, it was exploitation. Each discovery felt like a brick in a wall, building my resolve. As I left Rachel's office, the Chicago wind whipped through the streets, cold and unforgiving. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "You're ruining our lives, Emily. The kids won't have a home if I lose my job. Happy now?" I stared at the words, my finger hovering over the reply button. Guilt gnawed at me, but then I remembered Rachel's words. "You're the victim, Emily, not them." I deleted the message and looked at James, his eyes steady as ever. "What's next?" I asked, my voice stronger now. He smiled just a little. "We build your case, and we show them you're done being their aim." The city pulsed around us, alive with possibility. For the first time, I felt a spark of hope. This web of betrayal was tight, but I was ready to break free. The courtroom in Cook County smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, its high ceilings amplifying every whisper. My heart pounded like a drum as I sat beside James. My hands clasped so tightly my knuckles ached. Today, Emily Harper, was facing my family. Olivia, Ethan, and Susan in a fight for justice. $12,000 stolen, my identity used for a $20,000 loan. Their betrayal had woven a web around me, but I was here to break it. The judge's gavel struck, and I felt the weight of every choice that led me here. Rachel Nguyen, our lawyer, stood tall, her voice steady as she presented the evidence. Bank statements, text messages, emails, each piece a thread, unraveling my family's lies. I glanced at Olivia, her face pale but defiant, her eyes flashing with anger. Ethan sat beside her, his usual smirk gone, replaced by a nervous twitch. Susan. My mother stared at the floor, her hands twisting a tissue. I wanted to feel pity, but all I felt was a hollow ache. These were the people I'd loved, and they'd used me like a pawn. Rachel called Liam to the stand. My brother's shoulders were hunched, but his voice was clear. Olivia bragged about taking Emily's money. He said, his words cutting the air. She said it was easy because Emily trusted her. They planned it weeks before the anniversary party. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Olivia's lawyer objected, but the judge silenced him. I met Liam's eyes, gratitude swelling in my chest. He was risking everything, our family's approval, his place among them, to stand by me. Then it was my turn. I took the stand, my legs trembling, but my resolve ironclad. They took more than money. I said, my voice steady, despite the tears burning my eyes. They took my trust, my security, my sense of family. I gave them everything, love, support, thousands of dollars over the years. And they repaid me with theft, Olivia shouted from her seat. You're betraying us, Emily. We're family. The judge banged his gavel, but her words echoed in my head. Family, no. This wasn't family. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge's verdict came swiftly. Olivia and Ethan were guilty of identity theft and fraud. 4 years of probation, $12,000 in restitution, plus $7,000 for emotional damages. Susan faced a civil suit for conspiracy, though criminal charges were dropped. Their accounts were frozen. Ethan's job was gone and their house teetered on foreclosure. As the gavel fell, I felt free. Not vengeful, not cruel, just free. The web was breaking and I was stepping out. But freedom came with a cost. That night, my phone lit up with a venomous email from Ethan. You'll regret this, Emily. You've ruined our lives. I deleted it, my hands steady. Susan showed up at my apartment, her face streaked with tears. Emily, how could you? Your father's heart is breaking. You want us on the street. Her voice was a knife twisting guilt into me. I stood firm, my voice cold. Mom, this is your doing, not mine. You made your choices. She left, her sobs fading into the Chicago rain, and I closed the door, shutting out her manipulation for good. The next evening, James took me to Lake Michigan. The sunset painted the water in shades of gold and pink, a stark contrast to the storm in my heart. We walked to a small dock where a table waited, adorned with candles and roses. My breath caught. James. What's this? I asked, my voice soft. He smiled, his eyes warm, and knelt before me, a velvet box in his hand. Emily Harper. He said, his voice thick with emotion. You're the strongest person I know. You stood up for yourself, broke free from their lies. I want to build a real family with you. One built on love and respect. Will you marry me? Tears spilled down my cheeks, not of pain, but of hope. Yes, James. I whispered, my voice breaking. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring, a simple diamond gleaming like a promise, onto my finger, and we held each other as the waves lapped gently below. For the first time in weeks, I felt light like a bird, soaring above the city's skyline. Days later, a letter arrived tucked in a plain envelope. It was from Sarah Miller, a stranger who'd read my story in the Chicago Tribune, published anonymously under the headline, Family Fraud, A Survivor's Fight. Dear Emily. She wrote, your courage gave me strength. My brother used my credit card for years, and I stayed silent. But your story showed me I deserve better. Thank you. I clutched the letter, my heart swelling. I wasn't alone. My fight was rippling outward, touching lives I'd never met. The Chicago wind howled outside my window, but inside I felt a warmth I hadn't known in years. James sat beside me, his hand in mine as we planned our future. Liam called, his voice bright. I'm moving to Chicago, sis. Gotta stick with my real family. I smiled, tears brimming again. The web of betrayal had trapped me, but I'd torn it apart. Now with James, Liam, and even strangers like Sarah, I was weaving something new, a life built on truth, love, and the courage to say no. As I looked out at the city, its lights twinkling like stars, I knew this wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a chance to redefine family, to protect my heart, to live without fear. The storm was over, and I was ready to shine. The Chicago skyline glittered through my apartment window, a mosaic of light against the dusk. I sat at my desk, a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at a folder of bank records. Weeks had passed since the trial, since Olivia and Ethan were sentenced, since my mother's tears failed to sway me. The weight of their betrayal still lingered like a bruise that ached when pressed. But something new was stirring a sense of purpose, a fire I hadn't known I had. Emily Harper was no longer just a victim. I was a fighter, and the fight wasn't over. James walked in, his tie loosened after a long day at the law firm. "Found anything new?" he asked, nodding at the folder. I sighed, rubbing my temples. More than I wanted. I slid a document across the table, an old bank statement from my mother's account, uncovered during Rachel's investigation. It showed a pattern: large withdrawals transfers to my grandmother's name decades ago. Susan was manipulated too, I said, my voice low. Her own mother drained her savings when she was young. She's repeating the same cycle with me. James's eyes widened, but he stayed quiet, letting me process. I leaned back, my mind reeling. All this time, I thought Susan was the mastermind, the one pulling Olivia's strings. But she's trapped in her own way, isn't she? Trapped and dragging me down with her. The realization hit like a wave, heavy but clarifying. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was breaking a chain of abuse that stretched back generations. Liam called that evening, his voice hesitant but warm. We met at a diner in Wicker Park, the kind with sticky tables and neon signs buzzing in the window. Over burgers and fries, he confessed more. "Emily," he said, staring at his plate, "Mom always said this was how families worked. Taking what you need, no questions asked. I heard her and Olivia planning to borrow from you even before the anniversary party. I should have told you." His eyes met mine, brimming with guilt. I was wrong. My throat tightened, but I reached for his hand. "Liam, you're here now. That's what matters." He nodded, a small smile breaking through. "I'm done with their rules, sis. I want to be the kind of family that lifts you up, not tears you down." His words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of my heart. Liam wasn't like them. He was choosing me, choosing right. The next morning, my phone pinged with an email from a local nonprofit. My story, published anonymously in the Chicago Tribune, had gone viral, sparking a movement called a BreakTheCycle. The email invited me to speak at a community event in Grant Park to share my experience with others facing financial abuse. I froze, my pulse racing. Me speak in public. The thought was terrifying, but Sarah Miller's letter flashed in my mind. "Your courage saved me." She'd written, "If I could help one person, wasn't it worth it?" The event was electric. The park alive with hundreds of people, survivors, advocates, families. I stepped onto the stage, my knees wobbling, but the crowd's warmth steadied me. "My name is Emily." I began, my voice shaky at first. I thought family meant giving everything, even when it hurt. But I learned family is about respect. I fought back against financial abuse, not for revenge, but to break free. You can too. The applause roared, a wave of sound that felt like a hug. Faces in the crowd, men, women, young, old, nodded, some with tears in their eyes. I wasn't alone anymore. Afterward, a woman approached me, her hands clutching a notebook. "I'm Sarah Miller," she said, her voice trembling. "Your story, it gave me the strength to stop my cousin from draining my savings." "Thank you, Emily." I hugged her, my own tears falling. "You're stronger than you know, Sarah," I whispered. That moment under the Chicago sun felt like a turning point. My pain had become a beacon lighting the way for others. Back home, James and Liam joined me for dinner, a simple meal of pasta and laughter. Liam had just landed a job at a tech startup in the Loop, his eyes bright with excitement. "I'm staying in Chicago, sis," he said, raising his glass. "Gotta keep my real family close." James squeezed my hand under the table, his ring catching the light. To new beginnings he toasted, and we clinked glasses, the sound ringing like a promise. As I lay in bed that night, the city humming outside, I thought of Susan, Olivia, Ethan. They'd lost so much: jobs, their home, their pride. Part of me ached for them, but a stronger part knew this was their doing, not mine. I'd broken the cycle not just for me, but for Liam, for Sarah, for countless others. The web of betrayal was gone, replaced by a new tapestry, one woven with courage, love, and the family I chose. Chicago's lights sparkled below each one, a story, a struggle, a hope. I wasn't just Emily Harper anymore. I was a voice, a spark, a woman who'd found her strength, and I was ready to keep shining. The Chicago wind howled outside my apartment, but inside a quiet strength settled in my chest. Emily Harper, had walked through fire, betrayed by my own family, my sister Olivia, her husband Ethan, my mother, Susan. They stole $12,000, used my identity for a $20,000 loan, and called it family. But I fought back, broke their web of lies, and found a new path. Sitting at my desk with James's engagement ring glinting on my finger and Liam's laughter echoing from a recent call, I realized my story wasn't just mine. It was a map for others, a guide to reclaiming their lives. Here's what I learned and how you can apply it wherever you are. First, set boundaries, even with family. I used to think love meant saying yes to every request, paying for Olivia's kids' school fees, buying my parents' anniversary gifts, sending Liam money for college. But those yeses drained me, left me hollow. In America, we value independence, the right to protect what's ours. When Olivia sneered, "You're selfish for refusing to let her steal," I saw the truth. Boundaries aren't selfish. Their survival. If someone demands your money, time, or energy, ask yourself, does this respect me? If the answer's no, say no loud and clear. Practice it in small ways. Decline that extra loan skip, that guilt-tripped family event. Your worth isn't tied to how much you give. Second, seek justice. Not revenge. Suing my family was the hardest choice I ever made. My heart screamed, "They're your blood," but my head knew letting them steal again would destroy me. In the US, we're lucky to have systems like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau ready to help victims of financial abuse. When I gathered evidence, bank statements, texts, emails, it wasn't about punishing Olivia or Susan. It was about protecting my future. If you're being exploited, don't stay silent. Save every receipt screenshot, every message call, a lawyer or a hotline. Justice isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your power. Start small, report a small unauthorized charge, or confront a friend who borrows without repaying. Each step builds courage. Third, redefine family. I thought family was blood, Susan's lectures, Olivia's demands, Ethan's smirks. But they treated me like an ATM, not a daughter or sister. Real family lifts you up, like James, who stood by me through every tear, or Liam, who risked our parents' wrath to tell the truth. In America, we celebrate chosen families, friends, partners, communities who respect you. Look at your relationships. Do they honor your boundaries? Cheer your wins. If not, find your tribe. Join a support group. Reconnect with an old friend or lean on a mentor. family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who stays. Fourth, your courage can inspire. When my story hit the Chicago Tribune, hidden behind anonymity, it sparked Break the Cycle, a movement for survivors of financial abuse. Sarah Miller's letter, thanking me for giving her strength, showed me one voice can ripple outward. In America, we share stories on social media, in community centers, over coffee, to lift each other up. If you've overcome a struggle, don't hide it. Post about it, talk about it, write about it. Your truth could be someone's lifeline. Try it, share a small victory online, like saying no to a toxic request. You'll be amazed how many nod in recognition. These lessons aren't just words, they're tools. I learned them the hard way through sleepless nights and courtroom battles, but they work. When Olivia texted me last week, begging me to drop the civil suit against Susan, I didn't waver. No, I replied, my fingers steady. This is my boundary. When Liam moved to Chicago, we started weekly dinners, building a family grounded in trust. When I spoke at Grant Park, I saw faces light up, strangers who felt seen because of my story. Each choice made me stronger, freer, me. America is a place of second chances, of standing tall after a fall. You don't need a fancy job or a lawyer boyfriend to use these tools. Start where you are. Say no to that relative who always asks for cash. File a complaint if your account's been tampered with. Surround yourself with people who see your worth. Share your story, even if your voice shakes. You're not just saving yourself, you're lighting the way for others. As I look out at Chicago's skyline, its lights pulsing like heartbeats, I know I'm not the Emily who cried in that hotel room, betrayed and broken. I'm the Emily who fought, who learned, who grew. You can be that person too. Take the first step. Break the cycle. Build your life. The world's waiting, and so is your strength.